Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Dom from Northeast England. I think you said Sutherland,
Sunderland, yeah, yeah,
Sunderland,
yeah.
UK. And Dom has been gracious enough to share his journey with these symptoms, mind-body symptoms, his journey and recovery. So Dom, welcome. Really appreciate you being willing to tell the audience what you went through and how it's worked out.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Yeah, it's been a a bit of a. I think having watched the vast majority of the success stories, it's a journey that people go on,
Mhm.
and they have their own sort of personal struggles. And for me, it started around about October 2022. I was on holiday at the time, and
Mhm.
always always been quite active as a person. Sort of done a lot of sort of sports and but prior to that, I developed a lower back problem, so I was advised to do sort of yoga and Pilates, and really enjoyed it. Got into it, and yeah, it was around August 2022. I developed sort of a tweak in the upper part of my back, sort of neck area,
Mhm.
and it just wouldn't settle down. And went back to work, and it just got progressively worse to the extent where the pain was just unbearable. It was just
Yeah.
I had a great tightness under my arms, my shoulders, always in pain, and just couldn't figure out why it wasn't sort of settling down. Because normally when I've had issues before, it's normally sort of settled down after a couple of days. You know, maybe as if you'd sort of overworked yourself in a class, whatever. But this just stayed, and I just couldn't figure out what the heck was going on
Sure.
because the pain was just so intense. I'd never felt pain like it in my life before, and it was just what I couldn't figure out. I was trying to get it in my head to think, well, have I done something wrong? Have I sort of overexerted myself? But even by doing that previously, the pain wasn't like that, like I was getting now. And over time, it just got worse and worse. I don't know how many times I visited the accident and emergency place thinking there's got to be something wrong here. I've done something wrong to my back. And I was just advised really to go and see your GP, your doctor. They prescribed me on sort of the usual things of sort of high painkillers. So I was on tramadol, and but that just wasn't getting anywhere. So my sleep was getting disruptive and wasn't getting. I was probably at that time getting anywhere between sort of 3 to 4 hours sleep on a good night. Any other time, but what then happened is the pain started to sort of appear on my neck area. So every time I lay down, my neck muscles just tightened up, uh, as if somebody was trying to choke me. Um, and it just went on, and I used to sort of go to sleep thinking, I really hope I'm going to get a good night's sleep. And it was one of these things, as I've subsequently read, where you think, I just want this to go away. So I'm thinking, right, well, this will probably go away in 2, 3 weeks' time. But obviously, that just didn't happen. So the weeks then turned into months, and I was on sort of painkillers just to try to get myself through the day. And as I've now read, your world then just suddenly becomes a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing everything because you automatically assume that, well, if I do any exercise or I do any walking or I do any sort of general things, it's just going to make it worse. So I just stopped doing everything. Didn't go out hardly. The only thing that really kept things constant was going to work. I worked from home, and that was sort of a good thing in terms of the fact that it kept a routine.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I did everything that I tried to do to make an excuse of not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
So it was, oh, well, I'm not feeling well, or I feel tired, or it's the painkillers just making me lethargic. And I didn't want to go anywhere. And I used to then think of whenever we used to go anywhere, I used to dread thought of being out in crowded, a public place,
Sure.
and just hated it. and wanted every sort of. It was one of these things where you would try and fight against it just to get through the day, and so that probably went through the best part of 2023 to the back end. Well, prior to that, 22, in December of 22, I had an MRI scan.
Okay.
So went for the scan, and then it was probably the worst Christmas I ever had, because I wasn't due to get the results until the January of 23. So imagine the thing of having to wait sort of 2 weeks.
Sure.
And go back and find out. And I convinced myself it was either a bulging disc or there was something underlying serious. So I'd gone in to see the doctor with my wife.
Right.
And he sat me down. He had the MRI scan in front of us, and he said, "There's nothing wrong with you." And I went, "No, that can't be right, because how am I getting this pain?" At this time I was getting severe pains in my legs. Couldn't really walk that far, and come away thinking, well, actually, that's not a bad thing, but why am I still getting the pain?
Yeah.
And he said, right, what you need to do, just go back to doing yoga, go swimming, stay active as you possibly can, but there is nothing mechanically or structurally wrong with you.
Cool.
So into probably the Easter time of 23, they then sent me for a nerve conduction test to see if there was any muscle wastage. About a month after having all that, came back clear. There was nothing wrong. All the indicators were fine. So at this point, I'm sort of a year and a half into it now, thinking, what on earth is going on? Why am I still feeling the way that I feel? Why am I still getting the pain that I feel? And I was thinking, this is it now. I'm sort of trying to think about, have I done something wrong that's caused this, and how I would love to turn back the clock and not do it so that I would be okay.
Yeah.
And gradually I sort of thought to myself, well, this is it. This is basically your life now. You're just going to have to get on with it. Get on with the pain. Get on with the symptoms. Having to get up every morning and just fight your way through things through the day. Right. In the hope that when you get to bed on a night and you lie, you think, well, tomorrow's going to be the same day, but I've got through the day. Sure. And it got to the point probably of, I think the summer of last year. Mm-hmm. I was sitting just, as I say, the same typical things again, going through Dr. Google, looking for the symptoms, looking for a cure. When you were getting a particular new pain, right, well, what's that? So you're on Google looking for the symptoms. And by chance, I came across Dr. Schubiner.
Yeah.
It was just by a freak of nature. Nobody had told me about it. And he came up on the search, and I thought, this looks interesting. So clicked on the link, had a look at it, and bought his book, Unlearn Your Pain.
Right.
And I'm looking at the assessment he did, and I'm thinking, that's me. And every indicator that he was telling me, I ticked every single box.
Right.
And then about certain things about avoidance, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's me.
Right.
And everything he was saying, it sort of resonated as if to say, blimey, this is actually you. He's talking to you.
Right. Because
everything he's asking you, you're actually nodding your head saying, this is me, this is me.
Sure.
Now, I suppose the only thing to it is, because it wasn't sort of a proper medical diagnosis where somebody says you've got that, it's a bit harder to sort of try and get your brain around it to think, well, actually, there's got to be something wrong, where actually there isn't. And it's your brain telling you, well, what's happened is something has happened. And when I look back over certain things that have occurred probably in the last 10 to 15 years, I lost both my parents in a very short space of time. My wife's mum passed a couple of years ago, and there were certain things that I could pinpoint in terms of trauma that have occurred that has led me to this point. And it's probably my brain's way of saying, right, that's it, we've had enough now. We need to go into some sort of reset mode. And I sort of delved into it a bit more.
Mhm.
Started reading his book, and then subsequently went into went onto YouTube and came across yourself. But what I liked about you with yourself, Dan, was you just kept it, and I still enjoy it. And I've got your book here. It's like dog-eared because I just keep looking at it every day.
Great.
Um, and it kept it very simple, very straightforward. And because at that point, I was then sort of, I had like a daily schedule, right? I've got to do my journaling now. I've got to do meditation. I've got to do breathing. And it became quite an exhaustive way of thinking. And
True.
I thought to myself, God, if this is brain training, I'm actually exhausted. Um, and then when I came across yourself, I thought, it's not as difficult as it sounds, as daft as it sounds, and as simple as it sounds. Um, so I thought, right, well, what works for you? And I've binned most of it. So the journaling I do, but I don't do as much. I do a lot of breathing, but it just kept things, and it made things a lot easier and a lot more simpler to sort of get your head around this, to say, well, this is a condition, it's a mind body condition,
Yes.
but you can overcome it. Or if you can't completely overcome it, you can get it to such a degree where you have the control and the knowledge of being able to go, all right, my symptoms are probably at an 8 or a 9 today, but it's all right. I've got it under control. I know what to do, because it's the vast majority of the time before that, I used to wake up on the morning and go, right, when's the pain going to start? And that's it. That's the mode I was in. I was in that sort of fearful mode of, oh
Expecting.
my God, here it comes, here it comes. And
Yeah.
you were just waiting for it to happen. Whereas now, I still get the pain, but I just go, okay, that's fine. Let's just not freak out. And it just puts things in a bit more of an easier perspective to sort of cope with things on a much more easier level.
Right.
Not thinking too far ahead, not thinking back,
Sure.
just staying in the moment. And the more I got into it, it was actually, yeah. And at that point, Howard Schumann had mentioned Alan Gordon, and so did yourself. So I bought his book, The Way
Mhm.
Out, and that just sort of it was a bit. I wouldn't say it was a light bulb moment, but it just made all the bits, the separate pieces of the jigsaw that I was trying to figure out, just sort of come together, and as if to say, actually, yeah, you might have this for the foreseeable future. You could have it for the rest of your life. You just don't know. But the fundamental thing that I found was I was able to then make more sense of it and decide, right, okay, I know what this is now. I know that I've been told there's nothing structurally wrong.
Right.
Everything's fine. And I wouldn't care, but my wife, who's been extremely supportive, she works for the National Health Service.
Okay.
Has done for over 30 years. And she's been extremely supportive. But in a lot of ways, it's been useful, because I think sometimes you need a little bit of tough love just to go, you know, you need to be fine. Everything's going to be okay.
Hmm.
But you need to sort of not pull yourself out, but understand that there's nothing wrong with you once you get your head. And it's a very difficult, it's an easy concept, but it's such a difficult thing to try and get your head around it.
Sure.
And I think I have that sort of, initially I had that sort of 80-20 rule where I was spending 80% of my day worrying about 20% of my problems, and it was just absorbing me.
Sure.
And it was just that moment where I've just thought, yeah, you've got this. You know what you're doing. And reading other people's success stories, and what's very clearer was that we've all gone a very similar journey.
Sure.
All right, our symptoms might be different, but we've all gone on through a journey, both sort of on a psychological level, but also on a pain level, where you realise that you're not alone. Other people are going through this right now.
Right.
People have gone through it and come out the other end. And it's that realization of thinking, you know, as silly as this may sound, it's a very simple concept. Why on earth has this not been sort of done before? And it's funny, it struck a chord with me the other night when I was watching the news, and there was a guy on there who it was sort of talking about the 5 years of COVID lockdown, and there was a guy whose life had been changed because of long COVID.
Mhm.
He just and he resonated in thinking, and I when he was telling about what his world's like now, I thought that was me 3 years ago almost, and I thought he needs a book. He needs somebody to reach out to him, and I wouldn't care. I'm still in the thought of trying to contact them to say, listen, has he thought about this? Because I think it could. Because he just said, my world's just. He says I can't work anymore.
Yeah.
My relationships, and it's as sad as it was. It really resonated. I think, well, actually, why on earth is the medical profession not sort of preaching about this a bit more and making it more sort of around? Listen, instead of looking at the psychological elements, this can be looked into, providing, as you say, you've done all the tests and everything's fine. And I just think it's a real shame because it's a big opener because it's changed my life completely. I mean, yeah, I'm sitting here now. I've got pain. Is it bothering me? No. And it's a case of that unbothered process of, well, I know I might be in pain today, but I'll have a better day tomorrow. And I would 3 years ago, I would never have thought that.
Yeah.
And being on so much medication, and life is. I must apologise, Dan, because the bell just rang.
That's all right.
And I just paused it there because my two dogs are barking terribly. So
That's all right. We'll just roll through it. It's fine.
oh, can I come back and answer the door? Is that all right?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'll come back.
Yep. All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll wait for Dom to come back. I will point out for the viewers, we have many long COVID success stories. If you go to painfreeusesuccess.com and scroll through, you will find many people who were told they have long COVID who were able to eliminate those symptoms with a mind-body approach. And so it is very possible. Hey, Dom, I was just telling the viewers here that we have many long COVID success stories, and people are getting better from these symptoms that are being labeled long COVID. So I
Yeah,
was sharing that while you ran to get the door.
yeah. Apologies about that.
Not a problem.
So yeah, it was, and I think just I don't have, I would say, a set routine where I get up and say, right, I'm going to meditate at 9 o'clock. I just sort of see how the day goes,
Sure.
and if I need to just take myself away or breathe, even if I go out now, I'm not as anxious as I used to be.
Sure.
And there are times where, things can get a little bit overwhelming at times, but all I do now is I just calm myself down, breathe, and just sort of go with it because I know that it's not a condition that's going to damage me.
Correct.
And life, to be fair, is pretty much where it was about 3 years ago now. Still very active, doing the things we're planning, holidays and trips here and there all over the place, which, to be fair, 3 years ago, that just never would have ever happened because it's just, I could never have seen a way that I could get back to this because I thought, this is it. I'm trapped. I've got no way out. I've got no way of getting back to the life that I once had.
Sure.
And I think as you always keep saying, is having the knowledge and having the understanding about being able to then go, yeah, I know what this is. I know, but I've got the tools and the techniques now to then deal with it.
Yeah.
But I think the good thing with yourself, Dan, is it just keeps things on a very basic level and a very simplistic level where you're able to relate to it in such a way that, yeah, I've got this, because it just makes things a lot easier and more sort of manageable.
Right. If I can jump in here, you've said a couple of things that I want to comment on. You now know how to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like learning to cope with the pain.
Mm.
Um, You've also said something along the lines of, well, this might be here for a while longer, or it might be for the rest of my life. The expectation, I'm going to encourage you to change your expectation that this can go
Mm,
away completely. This is
yeah.
not a matter of, yeah, I'm back to living my life with pain. The entire goal is to teach the brain that my body's fine. There's no reason for it at all. So generally what I find are the two fuel sources that keep pain going are fear, expectation,
Mm,
right? Fear and attention, excuse me, are the two fuel sources.
yeah.
And an expectation that, well, this could be around for a long time. And so I'm dealing with it and I got my life back. And that's wonderful because you're starting to do more activities. You're not avoiding everything. You're able to function as part of society. It's wonderful. But what I'm going to really encourage you to do is open up your mind to the concept that this can go completely.
Yeah.
Instead of waking up and not really looking for it, but there's still probably a, oh, darn, there it is.
Mm,
And so the key here is clarity, and your body's fine. This is a mind body condition. I call it perceived danger pain. Your brain is still perceiving danger. Otherwise, it would not be turning on the symptoms and the pain.
yeah.
So, the entire goal of everything I teach in the book, in my daily videos, in my coaching program is conveying safety to the brain and saying this might be here for a long time is not conveying safety. And
Yeah.
I expect this to be an ongoing thing, but I've learned to deal with it. And I really hope for not just you, but for everybody that we
Yeah.
develop coping strategies to live with pain. We teach the brain that it can turn it off because there's nothing structurally wrong. Life events do not need to cause pain. Life stress does not need to cause pain. Um, and so I'm going to really encourage you to shift
Mm,
your mindset from this is great. Look at how well I'm doing. I couldn't do any of this before. Look at how well I'm doing with pain to, okay, great progress. Now let's focus on teaching this overprotected brain that we don't need the symptoms at all.
yeah. It's
So
funny, but it resonates that because it just shows that it does work because there are days, or certainly in the last couple of weeks, where by just simply not being bothered or forgetting about it, it's amazing how the brain just turns off.
yeah,
You just go back into that normal routine of living life, and there's nothing there, and the symptoms are very fairly non-existent. So you're absolutely right. I think it is just about having a far greater awareness of thinking, um, I can live with this, but actually things can be a lot better than it actually is at the
yeah.
moment.
Here's the point. If it can
Mm,
turn off like that, it can turn off long term,
yeah,
right? And so the difference is that um, maybe just expecting that this is a long-term thing, maybe keeping the brain saying, oh, well, maybe it's not going to go away, and maybe we need to stay on high alert. The perception of danger. So we don't always have to know what the brain is perceiving as dangerous. Because, like
yeah,
you said, sometimes it can just go when you're not bothered by it. Key
yeah,
phrase. When I'm unbothered, it can sometimes just go away. The key is to do that more consistently. So if it shows up, oh well, so what? I know what it is. It's temporary. Get that phrase dialed in. This is
yeah,
temporary. This is not long term. This is not potentially for the rest of your life. There's no need for it to be.
yeah,
If it can go when you're unbothered, if even just for a period of hours, minutes, whatever, the brain knows how to be pain free.
yeah, exactly.
So grab onto that and say, wow, this is cool. I've got evidence that I can, by being unbothered, knowing what it is, the clarity and unbothered can turn off the symptoms. But don't expect that it's coming back. Start to expect, hey, what if today's a great day and I don't have any pain?
Mm,
How much fun can I have today? And I'll encourage you to be less symptom focused and more engaging in life.
yeah,
And if you're engaging in life and the symptoms come along, Okay, so what? Don't care because I know what it is. I know it's temporary. This will pass because my brain has already shown that it knows how to l- let me be pain free.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
where do you go in regard to your expectations? And I'm going to encourage you to get rid of the coping with it mindset. I don't
I
want you to
think,
cope with it. Let's get rid of it.
yeah, exactly. I think it comes back to um, probably as an individual. I've always been sort of, and my wife sort of said this a few times, and it's probably a trait I got from my parents, certainly on my mum's side. I've always been quite a highly strung individual at times.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot to do with that in terms of where my wife is quite laid back. It's just everything's fine.
Sure.
And the trait she got was from her father, her dad, who was quite a laid back guy, never let anything bother him. And she's very much of that same attitude. And she sort of said on her numerous times, just let it go, just let it go.
Right.
Um,
So high strung doesn't mean you won't get better.
yeah,
It just means you're high strung. And we've got plenty of people who are high strung, have been anxious their whole life, really in a deep state of fear, who can still teach their brain, I'm okay now.
mm,
You've got the medical evidence, you've got symptom free times where it's not there. That's evidence. That's hard,
yeah,
rock hard evidence that you're okay. And so hang on to that and say, well, if I can do it for an hour or however long it lasts, I can do it permanently. And if symptoms show up in 3 months, so what? I know what it is. I know what to do about it. This is a recovery from fear, but that also comes from expecting good things, telling
mm,
yourself a different story instead of learning to deal with it, cope with it. And it might be around for a long time, but I don't care because I'm coping with it. That's a different story than, wow, I've got evidence that it can go away completely because I've had it go away completely when I'm unbothered. So I'm going to keep going and doubling down on the safety and the knowledge and the expectation that this is going to go well. Two things you control: what you expect.
mm,
Are you telling yourself a story that goes, today could be a great day? I don't have to hurt at all, right? And if symptoms show up, expect that you know what it is and how to deal with it. I'm going to be as unbothered as possible.
yeah,
Expect good things, be as unbothered as possible. Repeat, 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 repeat. Over time, the brain's going to go, Dom really doesn't have a problem, does he? Because he's not thinking about it much. He's not talking about it much. He's not worried about it. He's not planning around it. And he's not bothered by it. I guess we're okay. And the brain can turn it off more consistently. And then you'll pick up momentum and gain confidence and say, yeah, I really got this. So you are very far into what I would call a success because it seems like the massive fear, the massive doubt, the massive unknown has been already neutralized.
yeah,
But I think if with a couple of tweaks, you can take it the rest of the way across that finish line. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah. Because I know that it does work. Because I know that I've seen that when I completely just let things happen in the way naturally, it does just switch off. Um, you know, that's the
Exactly.
thing. It's
You
the
don't have a problem anymore. It's a
yeah,
perceived problem.
yeah, exactly. And it's a great feeling. But I think equally, I think I'm probably certainly a lot where I was before. And I think in the fact that I'm not relying on any meds anymore. It's having that greater knowledge, and I think it's certainly, as you're absolutely right, it's that probably last percentage of whatever it is, just to sort of make me realise that actually, it's fine. Everything is.
For you. Question for you. You say sometimes it turns off. If it comes back,
Mm.
mentally and emotionally, what's your response to that?
Uh, I just sort of go with it. I don't go, oh my god, it's back, and
Good.
start, because I know there are signs that if I and I think it's maybe either just because of either the time of day, or might have had a bit of a stressy day at work and stuff like that. There are times when you probably feel it a bit more.
Yeah.
But I'm not as fearful definitely as I used to be, because it's knowing the fact that it will pass, and
Yeah.
it'll eventually just calm down.
So here's what I'm going to suggest. I did a video a while ago on the progression of recovery. Um, we start out in negative, panic, fear, what I sometimes say, freak out, right? That's where most everybody starts. We don't know what's going on. It's massively upsetting. We're freaking out. And you've moved out of that. You're more in the neutral. All right. And that neutral is, oh, I know what it is. I'm not saying, oh no, I'm in trouble. Um, but we want to move you into the negative or into the positive, into
Yeah,
the right. So we go from the negative to neutral. And I think you're in the neutral where you're like, okay, it went away. It came back, not panicking. I know it will go away. But the yes is where we jump into the proactive teaching our brain, hey, symptoms just came back, but don't you remember for the past 2 hours I was good? So there's nothing wrong. There's no need for the symptom. In more of a stressful day at work, hey, brain, there's no reason for a stressful day at work to turn up the symptoms or cause them to return. So sometimes when symptoms come back after being away for a little bit, the more unbothered you can be, but also the more positive you can be in your instructions to the overprotective brain, going, hey, just stress at work. Nothing harmful is going on. We
yeah,
don't need to have symptoms. So see if you can you've moved from the freak out and the negative to the neutral. Let's see if we can get you moving towards, I'm actually really okay, brain. So totally unbothered by it. You can stick around if you want, but I don't care either way, right? Pain will often disappear for good when we stop caring, when it disappears for good. But I think in your case, I want to make sure the expectation is that it can and it will go away for good. And that this good feeling when it turns off can be your normal, can be
yeah.
your,
It's even daft things that I would never do before that I'm not bothered by it now. Where, and I've heard so many people say, "Oh, I wouldn't sit on that chair for too long, or I wouldn't sit down," and I just think, I even go back to what Dr. Sarno said. It's a virtual impossibility about how anything like that could just cause any problems. So I think you're absolutely right, Dan. I think it's the vast majority of the time it's fine. It doesn't cause me an issue at all.
Mhm.
It's just them little occasions probably where I'm not overthinking it, but I'm allowing it to just creep in
Yeah.
where it probably shouldn't need to do that.
Yeah, none of this is your fault. You're perfectly along the journey and you're, I believe, very close to the end because if your symptoms can turn off, and it sounds like they do pretty frequently,
Yeah,
when they come back, jump into the yes, I've got this. There's no reason for it. Hey, brain, let's turn this down. Let's work together on this. It's not the chair, it's not work, it's not life, it's not, world stress or anything. This is just an alarm system that's going off without need. There's no fire. Doesn't
yeah,
matter. Smoke detectors ringing. So I think with a little tweak or two, you're going to get to the point where these pain-free times are going to be more frequent and longer duration until eventually you're going to go, wait, I haven't felt it in a while, you know?
yeah. It's funny that because I had that. I would probably say about a week ago. I had maybe about, and it wasn't as noticeable where you suddenly realise actually I've got no pain, and you're thinking, and then all of a sudden I think it's probably just that. You're absolutely right. Just that little doubt in my sort of head, getting into it, going, well, actually, that pain could actually just go completely,
Correct.
uh, rather than just for a couple of days or a week.
Yeah, so you've had days that or up to a week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's proof. That's absolute proof that there's nothing wrong with your body. That's proof that your brain knows how to allow you to be pain-free. So the key is expect it to stay pain-free. If it comes back, be as unbothered as possible. Oh, I know what that is. Because sometimes people will, and I don't know if this is you, it doesn't sound like it, but if symptoms come back, there's a certain amount of disappointment or frustration or what am I missing? Right?
Mm,
So if you're that in that mode, you don't have to figure it out. Okay, so the brain perceives something as dangerous. Yeah, it was a stressful day. So let's remind ourselves, hey, brain, work stress doesn't have to hurt. There's nothing, there's nothing going on here that's dangerous. So, and as quickly as you can when symptoms show up, be like, not concerned, not worried. I know what it is. Come on, brain, you know what it is too. We just had a few days or even a week where we were feeling great. Let's go back to that. And then put it out of your mind and get back to what you were doing. Make living your life more important than trying to go, what happened? How do I stop it? Just
yeah.
clarity, unbothered, and then move on with your day. And what you'll find is that those durations lengthen from days to a week to weeks. And if it comes back, so what? Who cares? You know what it is.
But even having your sort of daily videos, and that's why I keep your book sort of close at hand, because it's such a good anchoring point to come back
Yeah.
to just sort of tap into again,
Yeah.
rather than just saying I've read it once and I'll put it on the shelf.
You forget
It,
it though.
it, it as time goes on, you become less reliant on mechanisms to sort of try and stave off the fear.
There's nothing, yeah, there's nothing to fix here.
Mm,
Right. I think, you said, the book can be a nice anchor for you. You know what else is a good anchor? Holy crap, I'm actually okay.
yeah,
Nothing to fix. I'm not broken. It's not an anxiety thing. It's not a fear thing. There's nothing to fix. I can just live my life, right? Anchor,
yeah,
anchor that. I know what's going on. So this is wonderful. So I still, the fact that you first jumped in and says, I still have the pain. I'm like, uh-oh, this
yeah.
is a success story. But you are a success because your level of fear has gone from here to here. And so that's a huge success. This is not fixing body parts. This is recovery from fear. And you've done that exceptionally well. You've learned the unbothered. You've learned how to, yeah, look, you're coping through the day, and that's sometimes where you are and what you need to do. You're not allowing it to stop your work or your family or whatever's going on. So you are a success in my eyes, even though it comes back periodically. But I really want to see if we can use this opportunity to say success story plus a little bit of coaching to get you all the way there. Because look, days or up to a week with no symptoms, that's huge.
Mm,
If I had offered that to you, in 22 or 23, you would have taken it in a minute,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what do you think about all that? You confident that you can move forward and be less
yeah. Definitely,
bothered and
because
more certain?
it's a case in thing about now where I have, whereas 2 3 years ago I had no control, where now I have all the control to shape, the future. So I think in terms of understanding to be a lot more unbothered about things is definitely the key. But to apply it consistently, I think that's the thing that
Sure.
I probably don't do. If I'm being absolutely brutally honest, it's the fact that I know that it works, and I know that I've seen it work. I just need to apply it a lot more consistent to what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And, it's that radical acceptance of, okay, so I have symptoms now, but I know it's going away. I'm not bothered by their presence. And it's hard. It's a practice. It's something that takes effort, repetition. And what you're seeing is when I do that, I get a benefit.
Mm,
So I'm going to do that more. I'm going to make that my default. Because a while ago, your default was panic. I don't know what's going on. I better go see a doctor, consultant, and just what's happening, what's happening, what's happening, more tests, more, right? And so you went from this medical merry-go-round to, I got this, I'm good. And so let's just take it the extra little step farther, add some consistency, add an expectation that, okay, well, if I'm pain free for 3 days, then I could be pain free for 3 months or 3 years or 30
Mm.
years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Clearly, there's nothing wrong with your body, and you have the hard proof already. So you've got a lot of wonderful things already in place. So do what you can if symptoms show up or they return after being away for a little bit. So what? Don't care. Like,
Yeah,
and have that be authentic. Don't go around and go, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, but I'm really frustrated. No, legitimately, there's no reason to care because you know it's temporary. And I often say to people in coaching, if you knew this thing you're dealing with was temporary, how upset would you be? They'd go, I wouldn't. And that's why we can deal with some of the most uncomfortable things like, oh, a dentist appointment. It's not comfortable. It's not fun, but you know it's for an hour and then you're done, right?
yeah,
You can all deal with that because we know it's short and it's done. And so know that what you're dealing with is a false alarm. And you've gotten better and better and better at knowing how to switch off the false alarm.
yeah, definitely.
Don't convince yourself that a stressful day at work or a stressful anything going on in life equals pain. It doesn't have to, right? And that's a key thing to have it show up less. But if it shows up, you remind yourself, hey, stressful day at work. So what? I've had plenty of them up until, well, 2022, and I didn't have the symptoms. So I can clearly have stressful days at work now and no symptoms. So you're teaching the brain, we're good, we got this.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
That all
No,
makes sense?
absolutely. I think the simplicity as well. I think is what you've made it as well, Dan, which has really got me to where to where I am now.
Yeah.
Because it's that clarity. I think is what I needed, which I've got that now in terms of
Yeah.
just understanding what I need to do to just sort of take it a step further.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're 99% of the way there. The last little bit is just hanging on to the confidence of knowing this can go for good, right? Because you did make some statements earlier that you were like, well, I
Yeah,
might have this for the rest of my life,
yeah.
but you don't need to.
Don't need to. Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with you. You've got an alarm system that triggers easily, and it's our job, your job, to say, no, we don't have to have it trip. There's no reason for the alarm at all. So, that expectation that it might be around for a while, yeah, no, it doesn't have to be. So I really want you to kind of hang on to that because that's golden. And just that little tweak of the expectation plus more consistency on being unbothered. Your wife is right. Let it go. Like you already know that things are good. Like it's not a problem to solve anymore.
yeah,
It's something to be less concerned with each day, less concerned, less bothered, more indifferent. So what? Um, there's nothing to fix here. So I think you're doing great. And I
well,
think,
cheers for the chat, Dan. I really appreciate it.
yeah, and I think this is going to be very useful for the people watching because they'll see how far you've come, which is wonderful. They'll see your success in having it turn off for days or even up to a week. And just, I think, this turning into a little bit of coaching towards the end, I think will also be very valuable for people because I think there's other folks in your place where they will feel pretty good and then symptoms come back. And it's very easy to fall into, darn it, what's going on? What am I missing? Well, maybe this is as good as it gets. No, 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 not missing anything. The brain just perceives some danger, turned it back on, and our job is to respond with clarity and calm, being as unbothered as possible. So when it comes back, it goes away sooner. And the more you do that and practice that, the less likely it is to come back.
Yeah, great stuff.
So, listen, I really appreciate you sharing your story, allowing me to do a little bit of coaching here.
No, thank you, Dan.
if there's ever anything I can do for you, reach out. I know I see your comments online sometimes, so I appreciate you participating in the community there, which is wonderful. And this will probably take a couple of days to get out. Probably by
No
the
problem. Yeah.
keep an eye on YouTube, Facebook. You'll see it post. And like I said, if I can ever do anything for you, you let me know. But otherwise, I'll see you in the daily videos.
All right. Cheers, Dan. Look after yourself. Take care.
All right, Tom.
Bye
Thank you
now.
so
Bye
much.
now.